In a world where coaches are crazy and referees are blind, there's always something to talk about. Dixie Football Fanatics with Chet and Bill.
Mom, Billy's hogging the microphone again.
Dude, seriously?
Finally, some people with brains.
Whatever.
Yippee.
Dixie Football Fanatics is on right now, kids.
Oh, this is too good.
I like it.
You have just entered the red zone. Now, your hosts. Let's hear it for Chet Young and Bill Cole.
Welcome to this week's version of the Dixie Football Fanatics with Chet
and Bill.
Bill. Your team, the Alabama Crimson Tide, is now the number one team in the football playoff championship poll. Is that the name of that poll?
I think we go through this every week. I don't know what it's officially called, a college football playoff poll rankings. Yes, Alabama, for all you fans out there, is number one in the rankings this week. After the big win over Mississippi State, Alabama actually beat number one, and they became number one.
Should they have really became number one? Really?
Chet
Surely?
is big on justifying and just dissecting. That's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about, do they really deserve it? But I guess the committee thought so, and they're the authority. So,
but you got a national championship. Now, I don't like this team. I done said that, but you got a national championship Florida State team that's won 25 or 26 games in a row. And you leapfrog the number 5 team all the way to the number 1 because they beat Mississippi State, which who was undefeated. I give you that, and ranked number 1.
I'm making faces over here.
Yeah, but they had not looked good against Kentucky right in the last few games. You think of what Mississippi State's done their last few games. They haven't looked that good, right? They were not ranked number 1, but they haven't looked that good. Yeah, I've got a little bit of a question. I'm not disagreeing Alabama should be in the top 4. I just don't know that they should be number 1. But I guess if you're in the top 4, it don't matter anyway. You get your shot, right?
Well, in a way, I do agree with you because I was skeptical that Alabama would be placed at number 1 for a lot of those reasons. But the committee is leaving clues on their criteria, I guess, or their methodology. Every week we're learning a little bit more about, what they're using. I mean, we're not able to talk to the guys, but we have a spokesman that answers some questions, Jeff Long, the athletic director of Arkansas. But yeah, I mean, it's Mississippi State was a consensus. I think we all agreed they deserved number 1 for the wins that they won in October. Like you said, they've kind of trailed off in their performance, but Alabama had a dominating win, even though it ended up being a 5-point margin. It was
dominating definitely in the first half. It wasn't dominating in the second. It's just kind of like, I tell you what, if somebody wants to beat Alabama, you're going to have to quit letting them jump way out in front. Right? I mean, that's what Tennessee did. Alabama had a 27-0 lead with 11 minutes to go in the second quarter. But of course, Tennessee cut it to 10. But again, Alabama had, a 19-point lead on Mississippi State at halftime? Or, no, it's 19-3, wasn't it? Halftime score, or was it 19-6? I forgot.
We had 19-0.
Was it nothing?
Didn't we?
I don't know. I don't remember. Yeah. So anyway, you can't let a good team get out in front of you by more than 2 touchdowns usually and expect to be able to come back and beat that good team, right? That does not happen very often. And of course, Alabama is a good football team, got a very good defense. And I'm going to tell you right now that Blake Sims makes the plays when he's got to make the plays. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he may be lackluster or, there may be some mistakes made, but when it comes down to it, there's been games where Alabama's needed to have a long, time-consuming drive, crucial conversions that Sims has made running the ball. I mean, he had 2 more this week, and when you have that weapon, Amari Cooper on your side, Alabama definitely goes to him, and he had not his best day, a couple of 3 drops, but he 8 catches, 88 yards, and a touchdown, and but yeah, Sims came through in the end there, and Bama took care of business and came out with a win and ascended to the top of the rankings.
Yeah, if you're the Mississippi State Bulldogs, you really, now you're sitting here, you're in the 4. So if they win out, Bill, if they beat who they got this week, they got UT Martin or somebody like that. Not UT Martin. Who they have? They have Vanderbilt. They got Vanderbilt.
Yeah, they've got Vanderbilt and Ole Miss left.
So, I mean, Vandy is weak, okay? So they should beat Vanderbilt without a doubt. And then the Ole Miss game is going to be a good football game. So, but let's say they beat them both. And so they got 1 loss, and they're sitting at home. And Alabama goes and beats Auburn. And so Alabama goes to the SEC title game. Now, the question that I have here. Actually, let me change that. Let me say Mississippi State loses to Ole Miss. So they give Ole Miss 2 losses, Mississippi State 2 losses, right? You with me? Alabama beats Auburn. Then Alabama goes and plays a 2-loss Georgia team. Georgia beats Alabama in the Southeastern Conference Championship game. So now you'll have Georgia with 2 losses, Bama with 2 losses, Ole Miss with 2 losses, and Mississippi State with 2 losses. Does a 2-loss SEC team get into the Final Four, and if they do, which 2-loss team is it, Bill? That's a good question because that can happen.
Yeah, I think what you just laid out there was recapping it, if Mississippi State, if Mississippi State loses again,
well, it was just Ole Miss, right?
And that's the question. Everybody is. It's kind of hard to believe that the SEC champion, regardless of number of losses, won't get an invite. But with the teams that are in the contention, like the Baylor and TCU and Ohio State, which is rising,
yeah,
and Florida State and Oregon seem to be penciled in. If they don't anticipate them losing.
I would have to put, in my opinion, in that case with 4 2-loss SEC schools, I would think maybe that there's an outside chance because of the win that they would have had in the SEC title game that the Georgia Bulldogs might slip in with a 2-loss record. Might. If they beat Bama, Bama would have 2 losses. So, you should weigh the SEC title game pretty heavy, right? So if you beat Alabama, you've only got 2 losses. Georgia wins out because they don't have any more conference games. They got Georgia Tech left and
Charleston Southern. Yeah, you're right. I mean, Georgia would be a 2-loss team. Those losses to South Carolina, Florida, and if they do win out and win the SEC championship, I don't see why they wouldn't. I think they would get in. And
they embarrassed Auburn, really. I mean, you talking about manhandling somebody? Georgia manhandled Auburn the other day. I mean, they just ran right down their throats. I mean, it was good old-fashioned 1950s or 1930s football where you just run.
Yeah, the thing about Georgia is, running the ball, and unfortunately, Gurley came back, was playing well, and blew out his knee.
Very special player, very special. He ran a kickoff back, and it got called back. First game back runs a kickoff back. He has 138, 140 yards rushing, something like that. First game back, But that Chubb dude is pretty good in and of himself. I mean, Chubb can. Chubb may be as good as Gurley.
Yeah, I know you're right about that. Chubb, 19 carries, 144 yards, 7.6 yards a carry, and Gurley compiled 138. And but yeah, just dominating.
That's 370 yards rushing just between two guys, isn't it? 380 somewhere around in there. That's just unbelievable. And they've got another good running back. I don't think he played much, but that Michelle guy's a good back. So I mean, Georgia's, man, they're just loaded with running backs. I used to think Alabama might have the best running backs in the conference, but right now I'd have to say it's Georgia.
Yeah, I agree with you that. And talking about defenses that are leaving a lot to be desired, you got to look at Auburn. That they gave up 412 yards this past Saturday to Georgia. Alabama hosting Auburn in the Iron Bowl next week. So it's they say throw the record book out, but this year, I mean, you got to like Bama's position.
Ain't gotta like it.
You gotta like it.
I ain't gotta like it. I mean, all I can say that day is War Eagle. My one day to say War Eagle. What do you think about that, Mr. Bill?
I don't like that.
Yeah, you don't really care. But
back
the games this week, you know what they say one of the better games is, and where the SEC Nation will be this week? The Tennessee-Missouri game. How about that? Up in Knoxville, the Tennessee Volunteers have a shot to become bowl eligible this week, Bill. With a win over Missouri, they'll become bowl eligible. And they would put Georgia into the SEC title game. Georgia needs Missouri to lose one of their next two games. Of course, two would be fine, but especially one of the next two. And Missouri does not have a easy road to hoe, so to speak. They've got Tennessee, who's hot. They're one of the hotter teams right now, right, since Josh Dobbs has been playing. And then they've got Arkansas, who had a major win. I mean, they blanked LSU the other day, 17-0. Blanked them. How about that? Blanked, spanked, whatever you want to call it. I mean, LSU didn't put a point on the board against the Hogs. So there's a team that's got 5 wins. They're fighting for a bowl, and they just one win out. And I wouldn't be surprised, not going to be surprised if they beat the Ole Miss Rebels this week, Bill.
No, I'm not going to be surprised either. That's a very intriguing game too to look at. But I kind of get the feeling that Ole Miss is going to get it together this week. I think Ole Miss is going to win. I can't really tell you why, other than just kind of a hunch there that Ole Miss is going to regroup. You know, they lost their. Even though they did lose their best receiver, Treadwell, in the Auburn game, but I don't know. I just got a feeling they're gonna get it back together, but that's gonna be a heck of a game. And like you said, Tennessee and Missouri's very good game. So
speaking of that game, I guess you heard that Tennessee's got A.J. Johnson suspended for that game.
Yeah, I heard the allegations, and then finally that he was suspended. And I don't know. I mean, you may not know a whole lot of details, but that. And I did hear some commentators today talking on talk radio how that, he's the heart and soul of that defense, and that's going to hurt him.
Well, it certainly can't help, right? He's the second all-time leading tackler in Tennessee history. So it's not good. And another guy that was implicated in that is Michael Williams, who started most of the games this year at cornerback. Although he didn't start last game, Emmanuel Mosley started last game at cornerback. True freshman started. But rumor has it Tennessee's probably going to start Jakob Johnson. We're going to replace one Johnson with another Johnson. the Germinator, so to speak. This guy's from Germany. True freshman. It looks like he's going to start. Him or Kenny Bynum, but probably going to be Jakob. And they keep saying that this guy's going to be an incredible football player. And also, that Brian Randolph, our starting safety, is suspended for the first half of the game because of a targeting penalty that he took in the second half of that Kentucky game.
I know you asked me about that and said for me to take a look at it because I hadn't seen it, and apparently it was a questionable thing, but I never did get a look at it. But I hate.
Well, it's one of these things where when the quarterbacks scramble, right? They run in up the middle, they're scrambling, and they're making a cut here and making a cut there, and then you get your defenders, closing in on them, and then right at the last second, you take a dive down on, slide. Right? Mm-hmm. And when your defenders are already making a move, well, Randolph ended up head-to-head with the guy, with both their heads on, about a foot off the ground. And they, of course, got him for targeting, and if you look at it, went head-to-head, I can understand why they'd do it that way, but the problem is when – can quarterbacks just obviously wait to the very last second to do that? The next play, he scrambles again, and he's running, and then he dips one knee like he's going to take it, and then he keeps going. So it's one of those, like, I'm going to slide. No, I ain't going to slide. It's like it puts the defensive guys at a disadvantage is what it does. And I just don't know that it's right. I think they need to come up with some scenario, some rule on that if you're going to slide, make sure you're sliding with plenty of room.
Yeah, I'm sure there was, discussion of that. I know the officials are evaluated every week, and I'm sure that, maybe there was some internal discussion that, that'll be something that's brought up that, I don't know. I guess it would have to be, outlined in the rules or something where, maybe they shouldn't, call. They should hold on to their flag in that kind of situation when a guy's making a move to, I don't know, to make a slide. It's just kind of a tricky area that can happen, and it did happen in this case. And the bad thing is the guy's going to have to sit out a half of a crucial game.
Yeah, and this is a big game for both Missouri and Tennessee. Obviously, Tennessee still needs that one more win to get to a bowl, and they got this week and then next week against Vandy. Most people think if Tennessee doesn't get it this week, they'll for sure get it next week against the Commodores. But as a Tennessee fan, obviously we like to see them win all their games. Just think about this, though. This is very interesting. If Tennessee was to win out and win their bowl, Bill, okay, that'd put them at 8-5. Would you believe that if Auburn loses to Alabama and then loses their bowl, Tennessee and Auburn could have the same record at 8-5.
Well,
and that's very possible because Alabama definitely can beat Auburn. I'm not saying they will, but I'm going to say they're probably going to be. I think they'll be favored by 10 in that game.
Yeah, I think the early lines are 12, 13 or.
Really?
So, yeah.
So I just took a guess. I hadn't looked.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that. Yeah, Auburn's took a nosedive defensively, and they're still scoring 30-something points, but they're giving up about 40.
Unless they're playing Georgia, they scored 7 on Georgia.
Yeah.
Just think about that.
That's right. Yeah, they.
Georgia shut them down, man.
I was able to see a lot of that, and just that's Georgia for you. They're just hot and cold, and it's like they're trending hot right now. So they're.
How big is that Florida loss? What happened to them against Florida is what I want to know. How could you let? As good as Georgia is, how do you let Florida just waylay you? It's 38-20. Look what Georgia's put up. 45, 66, 35, 44, 34, 45, 20, 63, 34. They're seventh in the country.
Seventh in the nation.
Yeah.
42 points a game.
And actually, they're not too bad defensively. They're giving up. They're 22nd in the country in points against them, right? So it's pretty impressive. They're a good football team, and all right, I'm going to say this right now, Bill. They're probably the best two-loss team in the country. All right, you going to beg to differ? Who would it be?
I think they're. I think they may be the best in the rankings, but yeah, we got.
Oh, well, they're better
Sorry,
than Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, UCLA are 8 and 9, and Georgia comes in at 10th. They're all 8 and 2 teams right now.
College football playoff rankings, the CFPR. Hey, there you go, the CFPR.
Whatever.
Well, you gotta call it something.
But yeah, I mean, what about Ole Miss? I mean, Ole Miss is
The Black Bears.
Don't even go there. I don't recognize they're the Rebs.
You probably don't recognize the Washington, whatever they are. The Washington. We can only say Washington. That's what some of these stupid TV things are doing.
A few of them
playing Washington. Let's not say Redskins. Washington. Anyway.
Yeah, Ole Miss 8 and 2, but hey, I mean they're back into their schedule. They have to go to Arkansas this week, and then
the dreaded Egg Bowl.
Then the Egg Bowl.
The Eggnog Bowl. That'd be better.
Mississippi State.
How does it get named the Egg Bowl? Come on, I know you the trivia buff. I know you know the answer.
It's because of the shape of the trophy was like an egg.
They give them an egg for what they
No, I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with
the
eggs.
yolk's on you.
It's just something that looked like an egg, and I think
well,
I don't have the specifics, but it's something like the trophy looks like an egg. It's not like it's sponsored by the egg industry. Anyway,
at least the Iron Bowl makes sense, right? We know why it was original.
The origination, but now it's a home and home series.
Once
it has
you've
nothing
named
to do
it,
with the iron industry.
Iron.
But anyway,
Birmingham Iron.
I think what I was going to say was Ole Miss getting back in the playoffs.
No. Go ahead. I'm listening. Let me listen to your scenario. You listen to mine. Let me listen to yours.
Well, they got two more conference games. The Alabama was beaten by Ole Miss. That's Alabama's only loss, right? So Ole Miss they got 2 losses right now to LSU and Auburn. If Alabama loses to Auburn and Ole Miss wins out, Ole Miss will be with 2 losses. Alabama with 2 losses, they'll have the tiebreaker over Alabama. Auburn, I guess they're out of it now with 3. I think that in that scenario, that's where Ole Miss will go. Will win the West.
They go where?
Huh?
No, you mean if Alabama loses to Auburn?
If Alabama loses to Auburn and they win out.
Oh yeah, you're right. You are right about that.
And they're like we just said, they're the top 2-loss team. In the ratings,
what makes that interesting about that? Let's say that happens and Georgia's in there, then it's Ole Miss in Georgia. Again, Georgia beats Ole Miss. Georgia's got a shot, man. I think Georgia's got an outside shot. We got to hope right now that this TCU and Baylor. I think
Baylor's got a tough.
Both of them's got.
They relatively.
I got you right here, big boy.
Oklahoma State. I got it.
You got it.
Oklahoma State plays them. That is Baylor and Texas Tech and Kansas State.
Texas plays TCU though this week. No, next week. It looks like they're off this week. TCU's off this week. Next week they play Texas on Thursday, November 27th. That could be a game.
To watch that. Oh, that's a good. That's Thanksgiving.
That's Thanksgiving
evening,
Day.
So
Thanksgiving
night. Very good.
You can bring me some turkey over here, and we'll watch a game here. I'm not going anywhere.
I think I'm going to be over at the daughter's house.
All right,
late, but yeah, I mean,
we're doing our turkey on Friday. We're Thanksgiving Friday.
For you.
Yeah, well, you know.
Get folks together when you can. But yeah, back to.
Thank you, Bill.
Well, Chet, but yeah, TCU. Who's TCU got left?
They have Texas and Iowa State. Throw the Iowa State game out. That's a nothing. Of course, you say that, but after they played Kansas to 34-30 game,
Iowa State's upset some folks.
Have they really?
Well, I don't know about this year, but Iowa State is not too good. They're 2-7 this year. But
oh man, they're only 116th in rushing yards.
they beat it.
90 and they're 48th in passing. So they, but they're 95th in scoring, and they're 117th in points they give up. So I just don't look for that to be a very good game, Bill. Although, click on Kansas. I want to see what Kansas was. What they're right there. Click there. Let's see what Kansas is.
Who carried TCU to within lost. Kansas was leading most of that game. They lost 34-30. Kansas is a 3-7 team, Chet.
And that hurt. That hurt TCU, right? It really did.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the rankings, Alabama to number 1, you kind of had some real lackluster, showings this past week. We hadn't talked Florida State, who had to come back like they always do against Miami. You had Mississippi State getting beat. You had TCU struggling, coming back on Kansas.
Baylor didn't look good either, right? I think Baylor had a bad game as well.
Baylor had a game against no, Baylor did not play.
They didn't play. Okay.
But they
well, the last win was a pretty good win against Oklahoma. So if they put a whooping on Oklahoma State, they might leapfrog some. I hope they don't leapfrog Mississippi State. I'd like to see Mississippi State get in it. I mean, I want you out, Mississippi State in.
Well, some folks are thinking, are they putting State? They want State and Alabama to play, which it would, if it stays where we're at here, they would play in the semifinal to ensure only one SEC team.
You think that's what you think they don't want an SEC versus SEC final?
Yeah, I bet my life on that.
Really?
They don't want that.
Oh, let me put that. Let's see. So you're saying Oregon and Florida State would play right now? I think I'd go with Oregon. So Oregon would play the winner of the Alabama-Florida State game. Look at Oregon. Let's see what they've been doing here lately. You got them? Oregon's, of course, they've only got the one loss, and that one loss was to, Arizona State? Is that who it was? You got it?
They lost to the University of Arizona. I clicked on Florida State, brought them up, and really they don't have – they've got Boston College and Florida left and an ACC championship game. So
they're virtually in, right?
Well, yeah, but I'm saying stranger things have happened that – I could even see Florida State losing again.
Not to Boston College.
Boston College is a team that, I know they beat USC earlier in the year, which is probably their signature win.
They got four losses. 1, 2, 3. They got 4 losses.
They're nothing to
They're
brag.
decent. They got a better record than Tennessee, right? So yeah, they just lost to Louisville, 38-19. They lost to Louisville on that was the 8th, a little over a week ago. And Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, they lost to Clemson. They had a close game with Clemson, 17-13 loss. Colorado State, Bill, is that where the McElwain's at? Is he at Colorado State?
Oh yeah, former Alabama offense coordinator under Saban, who I know the 09 championship team was under his leadership. But yeah, they're a one-loss team right now, but they haven't even nudged into the rankings. I guess they're whatever conference they're in. Is
he in the running or being considered at all for the Florida the Gator job?
He has been mentioned. I mean, I've heard his name mentioned, and he said, well, he hasn't come out saying he's not interested, which would be foolish, but he said, hey, you know, that's a compliment to our program. You know, we're building a program here, but I think he's a candidate, but I mean, he's not a big name. It's, you know, you always go for the groundbreaking. You know, you want to make a splash. You go to the big names. Who would we call the big names? Maybe you're hearing Gruden again. You're hearing.
I don't think Gruden's going back into coaching.
I don't either.
He ain't going into coaching. I don't think. We'll see.
Dan Mullen, Malzahn. I'm
you
skeptical.
You think Malzahn would leave Auburn? I guess he could or might. I mean, the guy that has no real ties to any school. He's got more ties maybe to Arkansas, 'cause that's where he's from, right? Than he does Auburn or anywhere else.
Yeah. I mean, you could make an argument. I mean, and nationally, you might get the answer. You would probably get the answer that Florida's a better job than Auburn. What do you think? Long run, I mean.
Well, I mean, it's got the weather. I mean, I say it's got the. It's actually Gainesville's pretty stinking hot, but I mean, it's Florida. I mean, it's in the middle of the state, right? I mean,
well, that's absolutely the most fertile, one of the most fertile recruiting grounds. Which there's a lot of competition for those guys, but I don't know. I mean,
Auburn's a good job. I mean, either one of them. I mean, either one of them's a good job. But right now, you might say I might rather be playing in the East than the West.
Well, yeah,
right?
I was thinking the same thing. You know, right now the state of the conference, the East is the weaker of the two, and if you can, you know, it's kind of if you can get a strong team and. You know, it's for the taking to take over dominance in the East. There's no real dominant program.
There's going to be one next year called the Tennessee Volunteers. Some people are way preseason in the early pick that Tennessee may be favored for the East next year. And that I could see why.
I mean, I can too,
but still, I mean, who knows?
I mean,
give it time. I don't want to wish this football season away. Let's get this one done first.
Yeah, I mean things are looking bright for Tennessee, and you know, I mean, I don't want to. I'm not saying anything, but you know, I mean, I mean, you never know. They could lose out. I mean, they're not going to lose to Vanderbilt, but you know, I mean, Missouri. We know how tough. I mean, they can be. They're not a great football team, but they have a knack for.
Something about the stars not really lining up for Tennessee. You know, I mean, they look. I mean, great win, 50-16 over Kentucky, and they had that score was the score at the end of the third quarter. But when you start losing a couple of players, you got to wonder about how it is affecting their mentality as a team. Not just two, and three if you count Brian Randolph. Of course, Randolph will be back in the second half, and it's senior day. You know, it's the last home game, and A.J. Johnson, who's been the star, he's a senior, and he ain't even going to get to run through that tee the final time with all the other seniors. Yeah. That is a major downer
for your teammates, and wasn't he a rah big?
Yeah.
So.
I mean, he could have went pro this past year, and he stayed, and he's up for top linebacker in the country. I think he's the leading tackler in the conference. He's had a great year. So they're definitely going to miss him, and so I don't know how Tennessee comes out in that game. They certainly got enough tools, enough players to win the game, but like you say, even though Missouri has not looked that good in the games, and they lost to Indiana, they keep seeming to pull this stuff out. I mean, they beat Texas A&M, I believe at A&M, wasn't it? Yeah, it was.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, what you looking at, Bill?
I'm going to bring up some lines to see what we're looking at for
Tennessee's favored by about 3 or 4 points this week. Can you believe that? I mean, Tennessee's 5-5, and Missouri's 8-2, and Tennessee's favored. That's interesting. And the line didn't even move when they found out that AJ wasn't playing. Strange. And then you've got we mentioned the Arkansas LSU game.
No, Ole Miss.
Ole Miss what?
Ole Miss is at Arkansas.
Did I
you
say
said
that wrong?
LSU.
I said that wrong.
LSU's
Yeah, I said
actually-
that wrong because Arkansas beat LSU last week.
Yeah, LSU's.
Can I go back and cut that out?
They're off this week, so they won't lose.
They won't lose. They won't win either.
But
so.
yeah, Ole Miss was off last. No, well,
Ole Miss plays.
Did they?
You were right. They were off last week. Ole Miss was off last week. We covered that a little. And then they play Arkansas this week,
and
right?
in Arkansas, I think at Fayetteville, Ole Miss comes in as a favorite.
Favorite?
3.5.
Wow.
3.5 points. And several games aren't on the board.
Aren't?
That means their opponent is.
In other words, you have no line on the Alabama game.
There's no betting line on Georgia, Charleston Southern, Eastern Kentucky, Florida. Which Eastern Kentucky's a 9-2 team.
Well, the problem is that Florida and I don't know. Maybe
Muschamp.
Maybe the fact that Muschamp's coaching that game too, isn't he?
Yeah, he's coaching the rest of the year.
Do you sabotage the rest of the year, or do you try to win? I mean, what do you do? I mean, look, think about it. Muschamp's. I mean, basically, it's almost like semi-embarrassment, but is it really embarrassing? He's going to get, what, $6 million buyout? Can you imagine that?
I think that I think I heard even if he takes a job, he gets it. I heard he's getting the money.
Oh man, I mean, unbelievable, right? I mean, yeah, fire me for $6 million.
The press conference was like almost like love fest. I mean, it was good to see, but Muschamp's going to be cashing checks, and he's going to be the hottest defensive coordinator that could be
Yeah, so you got to sort of wonder about that too, though. Texas was struggling his last couple of years that he was there.
Yeah, he's living off a reputation that's kind of a few years old.
Yeah, I'm several years old. Honestly, I mean, I wonder if the man's lost it. Lost that something ain't there.
There's so many. So many variables and factors and circumstances that come into play.
Factors and circumstances.
Well, I mean, look at him as Florida. He's had all those injuries. He had good defenses.
Yeah, defense was good this year. Yeah.
He just his downfall was his offense, and that they had a great prospect in Driscoll who was a high school stud and never panned out. And now you're looking at Florida with 116th in the nation in passing, and so they're only they're 65th in scoring offense. So, and their defense is 35th, which is not horrible. So, but yeah, it's been a tough few years for Muschamp, and he's looking for a job. First coach to
what? Get fired
hot
this year?
Seat burned him up.
I see. Yeah. That was one of my preseason predictions that Muschamp would get fired. So I think I got that one right. So what else we got going on? See, we got anything else going on?
We're looking at this coming week. Tennessee. I'm looking at them favored by 3.5 here. What I'm looking at Yahoo.com. Vandy at Mississippi State. How many times are you going to see an SEC game with a 30-point spread? State's favored by 30.5 points.
Do you think they do? Do you think they cover that spread?
I kind of got a feeling they will.
Do you? I'm kind of hoping Vandy's that back. Because Tennessee needs that win next week for sure.
Yeah.
Well, even if they win this week, they need that win. I mean, Tennessee needs to keep building. I mean, that momentum, man, momentum.
Yeah, you got South Alabama is playing South Carolina. There is a line on that game. South Carolina at home favored 24.5 points.
Speaking of South Carolina,
they're 5-5. Right?
Did you see the game last week? End of the game last week against Florida in Gainesville.
Well, I didn't. That's a point of contention. I was out at
contention.
With
who?
With the place. I went over to the sidelines and was watching the game over there, and they had the Florida game on. Went into overtime. All of a sudden, they flipped the channel. Alabama was about to come on, but they flipped it. And then I said, hey, man, put that game on the other TVs. And the guy said, well, I don't know what everybody else is wanting to watch. So I didn't even see the overtime, but
oh man,
I wasn't happy. It was dumb.
It is dumb. But
Switching
did you
the
see
TVs,
how
but-
did you see how they put it in overtime? That game should have been over. Florida
Wasn't
had
it
that
the
game.
punt or-
First
I
off,
saw.
they lined up to kick a field goal, and the field goal got blocked.
Yeah, I did see
And
that.
and then they blocked a punt. And then they went in and scored and took it to overtime. And of course, then they won in overtime. I mean, it's incredible. It was a game that South Carolina shouldn't have won. Just like a couple of weeks before, or a week before that they lost a game they shouldn't have lost to Tennessee. But
Yeah, it was
Spurrier's had
been
a rough year,
wild
man.
and crazy year for South Carolina.
They were
and,
a preseason top 10.
just a heartbreak year for Florida so far. But yeah, it's they've been a story. Both of those teams kind of you expected Florida to be better than they were, and South Carolina was supposed to be way better than.
If I'm not mistaken, there's only 2 teams in the East right now that have more than 5 wins. How about that? That's incredible, isn't it? I mean, Georgia and Missouri, that's it, I believe. I'm fairly confident I'm right on that. Am I wrong?
You're right. You've got Missouri and Georgia are 8-2 overall, and then you've got Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Kentucky all have 5 wins overall, and Vandy's 3-7. Whereas you look at the West, and it looks like everybody's going to be bowl eligible if Arkansas wins another game.
I think we can just about get everybody bowl. See, Florida. What's Florida's record right now? 5 and.
Oh, they're 5-4 right now, and remember they're only going to play 11 games because.
So they actually could be.
They got Florida State.
And they got who's their other one? Florida State. It's not a give me.
Well, this week they got Eastern Kentucky, so they're going to win that.
So
most likely.
So they got 2 games left. So if they win 1 game, they're going to be bowl eligible, right? So you could have. I think there's a shot that you could have every team in the SEC bowl eligible except for Vanderbilt. Am I right?
Well, Kentucky's 5-6.
But they're probably not going to win. They're probably not going to win the game they got this week. Who do they have? Or not? Maybe it's not this week. But they got 1 game left. Where'd you go? Hit the back button. Right there. All right. Now hit the Kentucky. Whoop. Anyway.
Now Kentucky. Kentucky's got, like I said, they're 5-6. Only 1 game left, and that's against Louisville.
Now they could win it. If they upset
that'll
Louisville,
make them 6-6, which technically
they're bowl eligible. 6 wins.
Okay.
I agree with you on this. I don't know that I'm real happy about 6-6 teams getting bowls, and that even includes Tennessee. Although Tennessee needs a bowl, so I want Tennessee in it, even if they go 6-6. But what I'm saying, potentially we could have everybody eligible except Vanderbilt. Odds are it's going to be everybody eligible except Vanderbilt and Kentucky.
Which kind of brings up the question of, how good has the SEC been in non-conference? I think they've won, I don't know if they've won every game, but SEC teams won.
Tennessee lost to Oklahoma.
Just about every game.
I know that one.
Well, yeah, just a few. But
it's easy looking at the West and determine how many of those have been non-conference games, right?
Yeah, we can
just look at them and tell the record's just about.
But yeah, I mean, you've got some a few non-conference rivalries this week or left. Like I said, you got Kentucky and Louisville. You got Georgia and Georgia Tech, which are not conference games. But anyway, those
Georgia don't need to blow the Georgia Tech game. That's for sure.
I can see that happening, frankly, because I mean, Georgia Tech is actually
decent football team,
under the radar.
9-2.
9-2 team. They're first in the ACC Coastal Division.
Well, that means they're going to be playing Florida State probably for the ACC championship. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
telling me?
I'm thinking out loud because I know as we're recording tonight, Duke is playing North Carolina, and they were getting beat. And Duke was sitting at 4-2 in the conference, and Georgia Tech 6-2. So I don't know.
It's looking like it's going to be Georgia Tech. Is what it's looking like.
Yeah, I mean, if
Miami's 3-3. I mean, they got at least 2 more games to go. Right.
Well, Duke's got North Carolina tonight and Wake Forest left, so they're going to lose tonight. I think they're losing 38-7. That means Duke, so that'll give them 3 losses, and then Georgia Tech. We know they got Georgia left, but they also got. That's their only. They're done with their.
That's right. They got their 8. They got their 8.
So,
that's what I was saying. They got their conference record in.
They're in the clubhouse.
Yeah,
But-
yeah. I mean,
but-
and they probably in the drivers. Who did they lose to? They lost to Duke, in North Carolina. So they beat even Miami. Did they play Miami? Yeah, they beat Miami head to head. So even if Miami was to come up in time, which they can't. Miami's got 3 losses, so Miami can't even tie them. Yeah, they're in. They're the Coastal champions, right?
Yeah, and the Florida State is 7-0, and of course they have Boston College left, so they've clinched their division. So
it looks like it's a Georgia Tech Florida State game.
yeah, that'll be an interesting game. I mean, frankly, Georgia Tech is like I said, 8. Look at their rating in rushing. They're 4th in the nation. I think they're a triple option, or they have been.
Now that'll be an interesting game to watch. Because Florida ran all over Georgia, right? Running the ball, and then Auburn couldn't, and now you got Georgia Tech 4th in the country, and Georgia as good as they are rushing. That'll be a fun game to watch if you want to watch powerhouse football.
Yeah,
right?
that's.
Click on Georgia.
Saturday after Thanksgiving. See Georgia.
Well, they're 14th, so actually, like you said, Georgia Tech's, they're averaging about 70 or so yards more per game than the Bulldogs are. So anyway, all right, Bill. Who's your final prediction that I'm gonna give you a couple of weeks out. All right, I mean right now, who's gonna end up after all the championship games are said and done? Who's Bill's top 4? Who's gonna be in the college football playoffs? College football playoffs.
Chet, I'm glad you asked because we're looking at number 1 right now is Alabama. And this is no shocker here, but I'm looking for Alabama to win out.
Yeah, don't shock me. Homer.
They're going to win. I think they'll win. I'm so positive they're going to win against Western Carolina.
That's yeah.
Because you know who beat Western Carolina 51-0?
No.
Chattanooga.
Really? Okay.
Well, Chattanooga beat them 51-0. Now they're playing Alabama. So I want to see the starters out of the game. I don't even really want them
to play. You don't want them to start. I don't even want the starters to start this week.
First quarter.
All right.
But anyway, Alabama, Oregon. I think Oregon. Yeah, Oregon's going to get it done. They got Colorado and Oregon State, which Oregon State's been a thorn in their side. They have been, and that game is in Corvallis.
It's out in Oregon somewhere, isn't it?
I think.
They're playing in Oregon.
Corvallis, Oregon.
Corvallis.
You didn't know that, did you?
I did not know that, obviously. Well, I don't know if it's obvious, but I didn't know it. All right.
All right, back to the question. Alabama, Oregon. Oregon's likely to get in there. I think they got a Pac-12.
There you go.
Let's look at
Pac-12 championship.
Let's look at the Pac-12, Pacific 12, Pac-12. Oregon 6-1 in the North. They've clinched a long time ago. Stanford's 3-4 in the division.
So
other side, what we want to look at.
It's either USC or UCLA. 5, 6, 7, 8, one game.
There's a lot of football left there.
That's going to be interesting.
2 Cal teams and 2 Arizona teams.
It looks to me like USC's in the house right now, right? I mean, do they have another conference game left or not?
I would say they got UCLA this week. Yeah, that's Saturday night this weekend. We got USC at UCLA.
So they play 9 conference games. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, that's they.
Okay, all right. So
UCLA.
So now what you're saying? You think is it going to be Oregon or not? I mean, I'm trying to get you 4 because when we've been stretching this sucker out, we're up pretty high in these minutes right now. I mean, I'm enjoying it. Don't get me wrong, but 51 minutes, and we could, not that we have a time clock exactly on us or a official cutoff time that we've got to have, but some of our listeners may like us at some time to make these things a little shorter.
Alabama, Oregon, I think Florida State's going to make it. The number 4 slot.
I'm smelling Bill picking a Buckeye.
I think Ohio State has Indiana, Michigan left.
And the Big Ten championship game. They do play one, right? So I think the only one that don't play one is the Big 12. The Sissy 12, if you want to call it. Well, they say, we play everybody. We know who our champion is. We play everybody.
Big Ten.
Big whoop, right?
Well,
go ahead.
They're not a shoe-in because you've
Wisconsin.
got Wisconsin, who has Melvin Gordon, who
he is good.
Is a guy that rushed for over 400 yards, and he only played 3 quarters against Nebraska, which is a team that ought to be ashamed. That's
unbelievable.
But Wisconsin's got Iowa and a 25th ranked Minnesota left, so that's going to be a good little Big 12 game. Wisconsin and Ohio State. I look forward to that. If that's what we're looking at. Michigan State is where are they dropped out? Or they
Michigan State? They still got 2 overall losses. So
we're looking at conference. I think as far as the playoff series, Michigan State may be out of it, but
all right. So
anyway,
Bill's 4.
I'm going to go ahead and say Ohio State's going to work their way up, but it could be my second guess would be Mississippi State staying where they're at. I don't know. So what about you?
What about me?
Me?
What do I think? I think Bama beats Auburn, which I don't want to happen, but I think Bama beats Auburn. Please, Auburn, don't make me right. I think Georgia beats Bama in the SEC title game. I think Mississippi State beats Ole Miss. I think Mississippi State is in the 4. I think Florida State's in the 4. I think Oregon's in the 4, and either TCU or Ohio State. And I'm going to hope TCU instead of Ohio State. Did I miss one? Florida State.
Well, what you were saying is Georgia beats Alabama in the SEC championship game,
knocks Bama
which
out.
makes them SEC champions, and you're saying
That don't get them in because Mississippi State's at home with one loss because they did not lose to Ole Miss, right?
Well, think about what you're saying. Alabama beating Auburn,
right? That's all right.
Alabama will be number 1.
But they go into the SEC title game, and then Georgia beats them.
And they're not going to put Georgia up in the top 4.
I don't know. I'd like them.
I think they will.
You think they
would?
Even though
they're sitting at 10 this week.
But they would jump. They would jump an Ohio State team that's only got 1 loss. They would jump.
Yeah.
I hope you're right, but I don't see it
because the way that they
are
figuring is week to week, and if you beat, it's your wins. It's
But here's the deal, though.
Beating the number 1 team.
Okay, but
that's
at the same
been proven. Alabama went from 5 to 1. Why can't somebody go from 10 to 4?
I would like that to happen because I like Georgia Bulldogs and I like Mark Richt. But I mean, no, I don't think. I mean, believe me, I want that to happen. But I just assume Wisconsin beat Ohio State, and knock them out, and then it make no. I mean, that would be the main one, right? TCU probably don't have good enough wins. I could see them definitely jumping TCU and Baylor because they don't have good enough wins. But it is hurting Georgia that they lost to. They got thumped by Florida. That ain't helping matters.
Yeah, but it's like the committee. If you get a great win or a really good win, that trumps a bad or so-so loss that happened a couple of months ago. Because, and you may see Ole Miss dropping out if they lose to State. UCLA could get beat by USC. That's 2 teams in front of Georgia right now that could well drop out, and so yeah, they're in striking distance. But
a lot's got to happen. But they ain't even in the SEC title game yet. If Missouri wins out, Georgia won't even get in it. So.
As a Bama fan, I'd rather play Georgia. I'd rather play Missouri.
I bet you had.
How about that?
I guarantee you had. Yeah, it's a big duh. Anyway, all right, Bill. Until next week, buddy. I enjoyed it, and hopefully next week we'll be talking about the big Tennessee win over the Missouri Tigers, and we'll talk about the bowl eligible Vols. How about that?
That'll be something. That'll make for a happy co-host.
Me or you?
Yeah. Well, you.
Definitely makes me happy.
Night game. I may be watching Vanderbilt, Mississippi State. I'm telling you, it's
really. You gonna watch Mississippi State over Tennessee and Mizzou?
Mizzou at Tennessee is the matchup of the evening.
It's the matchup of the evening, and we like I said, you got SEC Nation there. So boom, buddy.
Well,
on ESPN no less. I got Herb Street and what's his face are doing the game. How about that?
Chris Fowler. Yeah, they make that trip over from game day. They do that in the morning and fly to the evening.
That's pretty good. So anyway,
yeah.
All right, Bill.
All right, it's been fun.
Well, give us an adieu, and we'll call it a show.
All right. Well, DixieFootballFanatics.com is where you find us on the internet, and we got multiple platforms you can download a podcast. iTunes Store, Stitcher, is a podcast. You can pick it up off our webpage, and Facebook. We got the Dixie Football Fanatics. So check it out. Tell your friends, and we'll be back next week with another podcast. Thanks for listening.